Hello, everybody. Just going to give it a few minutes for everybody to sign in. Okay, Khalid, I'm home with kids. So there's a little bit of juggling and cooking, and so but got my ears in and I'm listening, and we'll start shortly. Okay.
Don't worry, of course. I'm also on my mobile phone, so I don't have I can't pull a file which means if there's something that you guys want for me to share, just I'll make a note of it and forward that to the later.
I think we'll be great tonight. Thank you.
You got it.
All the press and all do makes this worse.
What?
Khalid, just so you know. Oh no, I think it's Beverly's on mute. Okay, no worries. Still waiting.
Good evening.
Good evening, Melanie. We'll just waiting for folks to come in. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, somebody. Oh, there we go.
Hi, Khalid.
Mr. Barnes.
Hello.
All right. Were you
Good.
with us, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yep. I can hear you well.
Awesome.
Who are you with?
Sorry, I'm from the Specialized High School Diversity Outreach team.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Welcome. We'll give it a few moments for some other members to sign on. Okay. Only received one notification that they couldn't make it, so let's give it a moment and then we'll get underway. That's why I'm walking around a little bit because I'm preparing food for my kids as we meet. But so a little bit of multitasking, but I'm paying attention. All right, we'll start in 1 minute, okay? Hey, Lorianne.
No problem.
Let's see. All right, good evening, everybody. It's 7:09. I think we'll call the meeting to order. And let me just make sure I have the agenda in front of me. I will start by saying that it is, as I imagine many of you, is a particularly busy period and very busy evening right now. So I'm going to be as kind of focused as possible on the things that we can in fact discuss and leave any kind of activity that individual or smaller group subcommittees need to do to the subcommittee. And because I think I'm not sure if we've been able to make progress on a number of items, perfectly okay. So let's make sure that we have everybody that I see on the screen here. Quick roll call. Beverly. Oh, there's Naomi. Hi, Beverly. Dexter.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Raylan.
Hi, Mr. Roberts. Melanie. Yep, here, you're good. I can see you. Lorianne. Oh, maybe close by. We'll check in on you. And hi, Naomi. And then we
Hi,
have,
how you doing?
hi,
Couldn't
good,
get my
good.
sound, but hi. how
That's
you doing?
okay. Hi. Good, good. Mr. Barnes, so would you mind introducing yourself and to everybody, to the committee, Mr. Barnes? Thank you for joining.
Hello, thank you. My name is Christian Barnes. I work with the Department of Education on their Specialized High School Diversity Outreach team. What that means is that our team does presentations at schools, at community boards like this, community education councils, really anywhere that helps get information out to families and students about the high school and specialized high school admissions process. So I was invited by Melanie tonight to come and speak and run through our presentation. What I'll do is I've given you the brief intro on the team. I'm going to move a little fast through the presentation, and then at the end of it, I'll talk a little bit about what's happening right now because of the current pandemic and some of the things that families should expect in the next few weeks. You're muted. Sorry.
It's okay. One day I'll learn, right? Unmute yourself. Well, let me check off a couple of boxes and then we'll put you right at the beginning for the presentation. And so so you can also move on with your evening if you would choose so. I did see Maurice Cummings on here briefly, but not anymore. Okay. All right. So this is the group for today. Welcome, everybody. Let's just do some housekeeping, and then we'll get to the individual subcommittee and topic or subcommittee reports. And at that point, I think if everybody's okay with that, I'll ask Mr. Barnes to present first. We'll focus on that, and then we can get to some of the other subcommittees and decide what work we have ahead of us. Yes, if you're on camera. Thumbs up if you're good with that. Yeah, let's see. A single thumbs up. I'm going to assume it is so. Everybody's frozen. Topic reports. We'll just do a blanket request. Is there anybody who has a topic report today, either on after school, the library, youth and education, Richardson work? That's Ms. Randolph. Actually, she did let me know she wasn't able to come and had no updates or any updates on the CB9 front. So anybody has any topic reports that they want to chime in on at this point? Just please unmute yourself and let me know. Okay.
Would Jackie Robinson fall under that, or?
Nope.
Okay,
Subcommittee. We'll get to that. Nope. We'll get to that. Okay. Okay. So that's easy enough. So we'll move through things swiftly today. So we'll move on to subcommittee reports. And one of the subcommittees was, in fact, the Specialized High School Admission Test Committee and Diversity Committee. And so why don't we just move right back to you, Mr. Barnes, and we're ready for your presentation. I think Mr. Barnes didn't expect us to be that quick, I think. Right, Melanie? You just, its camera went off when you took a break. So let's wait for him to come back. Meanwhile, let's discuss some of the other topics then. Why don't we just discuss Jackie Robinson, Melanie? Go for it.
That's so funny. Christian, we're waiting on you. All right, well, good evening, everyone.
I'm so sorry. I went to the bathroom really quickly.
No problem.
Are you ready for me to start presenting?
Yes, we're ready for you.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that is good. That is quite all right. The floor is yours.
Okay. I'm gonna start sharing my screen if that's okay. Can you confirm that you can see?
Yep, confirmed.
Okay, and it says NYC high school admissions, right?
Well, yeah, not yet. It says you started screen sharing, but I don't see you may need to select it correct. There we go. Yep.
Yeah,
Got it.
I'm gonna turn off my video so that my Zoom can run faster.
Yes, all set.
So today I'm going to go through the New York City high school admissions process. As I mentioned before, I'm going to go a little faster through some of the slides since this is the presentation that we used over the course of the presentation. But for this year, the application period ended in March. Just give me one. Sorry, the hands are going a little slow. Sorry, give me one. I think that the thing. Oh, give me 1 second.
Not a problem.
I'm reloading the presentation now and I'll be able to screen share again. Okay, what I'll do is I won't share it in presentation mode and hopefully that'll make it go faster. So I'll just move through each of the slides individually. So share screening again now, and if you could just confirm you can see it, I'll move through.
Yep, it's
On
coming
the
up. Yeah, give it a
Okay.
second. Yep, there you go. Yep, that
Awesome.
works.
So the first thing that I'm just going to go over is who can take part in high school admissions. And just really briefly, that's 8th graders and first-time 9th graders, no matter what type of school that they go to. So whether they're going to a public school, charter, private, or if they're homeschooled, or if they move to New York City during the process, they can take part in the application process, specialized high schools testing, and LaGuardia admissions. What it means when it says first-time 9th graders are just 9th graders who are not repeating 8th grade. So you can be in a high school in your first year and apply to a separate high school for 10th grade. So we do serve all types of students, and that does include students that are English language learners. English language learner students don't move through the process separately. They can apply just like everyone else. And high schools do have to provide those services, which is something that's really important because we see that families many times think that there are only certain schools they can apply to because their children are English language learners. We also do have some high school programs that admit students specifically based on home language, years in the country, or English proficiency. And I'll show you a little bit later how My Schools works. We have some slides on that and how families could look up those programs specifically. Now, we do understand that some students also have accessibility needs. So when they apply to high schools, they are allowed to indicate this on their application, and they should also look up whether the schools that they're interested in do meet those accessibility needs. Some students may need a ramp that's accessible for them to get into the school. Students may need elevators. They may not be able to move amidst multiple floors for their classes, things like that. And you can find out more about it, especially in our guide, which is available online for high school and specialized high school admissions and online in My Schools. In a non-pandemic year, we would also recommend visiting the school and seeing if there's a tour or something like that available so that you can feel what it's like to attend the school since you're planning to go there for the next 4 years. In terms of students applying into admissions, there are 2 seat groups. Called General Education and SWD, which means Students with Disabilities. And for the SWD students with disabilities, this is based on their IEP. And these students who have IEPs, just like the English language learner students, can apply to any programs in New York City. Okay, sorry, I thought I was frozen. And high schools do have to provide the service that the
No, you're
student
good.
receives from their IEP for the student when the student goes there for high school. Now, for private school students, sometimes IEPs are known as IESPs or learning programs. And if you can give me 1 second, because the slide is not moving. I do apologize for the technical difficulties. I'm just gonna have to move further on with the presentation. I apologize again. Are also allowed to apply to admissions. And when you're in My School and you're looking up a specific program to apply to, it actually has the seat numbers that students can apply to by GE and SWD. I do apologize. The presentation is now moved. So I'm gonna go back to where I was here. Okay. So again, I was discussing the seat groups. Now, students, when they apply to programs, are split into SWD and GE, which you can see on the screen now. And GE students are only competing against other GE students. And GE stands for general education. While on the left, you can see that SWD students, indicated in the green, those students are students who receive special education instruction for 20% or more of their academic program, and they're only applying for SWD seats. So now we'll move on to what the high school admissions process looks like. And an overview shows them splitting off into these two pathways. Now, what's required for 8th grade students is the path on the left, which is a high school application, which is for 700 or more programs throughout New York City. Then we have a secondary path, which is this green path, and that's the specialized high schools. We have another diagram that shows these two pathways branching out, and this is what I call the 3 branches of high school admissions. High school admissions, including the specialized high schools. So on the left side, as we talked about, students will submit an application, which was submitted this year in March, by listing up to 12 choices, submitting those 12 choices, and they can receive up to 1 offer from that. On the right side of the screen, indicated in the green, are how the specialized high schools path branches off. So for the 8 testing specialized high schools, students sign up for and take the specialized high school admissions test. And this year that was done in person at student schools and then on weekend sites for charter and private school students. After you take the specialized high school admissions test, you can receive up to 1 offer from that, which is going to come out at the end of this month. And then for LaGuardia, which is the audition specialized high schools, students registered to audition online, submitted their audition to the virtual audition submission tool this year, and you can receive up to 1 offer for each LaGuardia program you apply to. So altogether, that's up to 1 offer from the high school application, up to 1 offer from the specialized high school admissions test, and then up to 6 offers from LaGuardia if you do audition for all of their programs and then receive offers to all of their programs. After offers come out, which will happen in late spring, we don't have a date exactly yet, the waitlist process will open. Now, for all programs that are not specialized high schools, they will have a wait list and families can add themselves to those wait lists. And if there's room and the school chooses to accept more students in, a student may receive an offer to a new program off of the wait list. So when we're presenting to families, we always remind them that they can learn more about high school admissions online. We do have our website, which is schools.nyc.gov/hi and schools.nyc.gov/shs. We did put a very comprehensive video series online about both types of the admissions processes on there. And in addition, you can find our updated digital version of the high school admissions guide. The physical high school admissions guide that was created for last fall was given out when dates were set before we entered the current pandemic. So if families do have a physical book, they should note that some of the dates in the book were wrong and we adjusted the admissions process accordingly. So the digital version online is updated past those dates that were out of commission once the pandemic. So myschools.nyc is the one-stop shop that all families are going to use when they apply to admissions. Families will need the student ID number and account creation code to set up their account. But even if you don't log in, you can still explore program options. Once you do log in, however, you use that to register for LaGuardia auditions and submit your high school application, in addition to registering for the specialized high school exam. So now I'm going to go into that path of admissions that were the specialized high schools. So here we see again, there's that distinction between the testing specialized high schools, which are indicated in this top list. To enter any of these 8 schools, you need to take the specialized high school exam. For the audition school indicated at the bottom, which is LaGuardia, you audition to those programs that you're interested in. Now, this year, for the first time, audition studios happened virtually, in addition to other audition programs throughout New York City. So students were meant to register by March 1st, indicate which of the LaGuardia studios they wanted to audition for, and then submit through the virtual audition submission tool or by emailing it to us by March 8th. So LaGuardia High School auditions, you do submit files after registering for the auditions for LaGuardia. And then we did have more information for families online. We had information for counselors and everything like that. The other audition programs follow a very similar process to LaGuardia, with the exception that students submit their files and add the program to their application. So if I was interested in a specific audition program at Brooklyn High School for the Arts, for instance, I would just want to make sure that that's on my high school application and then also submit my audition files. So for this year for auditions, the high school staff is going to evaluate and rank applicants based on those auditions, and they are not going to be using the academic record for students. That's for all audition programs with the exception of LaGuardia. And this is very new this year because it means that the audition schools are just using the auditions of the students to evaluate them. And then the Office of Student Enrollment will then make offers to those programs in priority group and then rank number order. I'm going to talk about priority group later. So just to recap, for audition programs, it depends on which type of program you're applying to. For LaGuardia, you register specifically in My Schools. There's a section for that. For the other audition programs, you add it to your application. And then for all audition programs, you submit your audition files. And then the schools are going to evaluate you based on what's in those audition files. And with all the programs except for LaGuardia, they're not going to use your applicant record, which are grades, state test scores, things like that. Next, we'll talk about the specialized high school test. And for that one, you registered in advance in My Schools. We had our first deadline available, and then we had a late registration deadline. So students were allowed to continue registering. Many students at DOE schools took the specialized high school exam at their school in that last weekend in January, and then there was a makeup in the middle of February. And then for private, parochial, homeschooled students and ninth graders, they took the test at different central DOE weekend sites over the course of the end of January and in the end of February. For the specialized high school exam, that is what is used as the sole criteria for entry into the specialized high schools. Now I'm going to go through a graphic that shows you what that looks like, but what you need to understand is that 3 things determine whether you receive an offer to a specialized high school, and that's your specialized high school admissions test score, the preference order that the student themselves puts down, and then whether or not there are seats available at the school. The specialized high schools, with the exception of LaGuardia, do not review state test scores or grades or anything like that, just your score in the specialized high school admissions test.
Go and tell him you got it and let him do test for blood clots.
Is that a question for me? Okay. Oh, okay. I don't think so, so I'll keep going through. So first, after all the students take the specialized high school exam, the answer sheets are scored and then they're ordered from highest to lowest. From there, we're going to look at the preferences of the student that scored the highest. And as we can see here, that first preference is going to be Brooklyn Latin. Then we look at whether or not there are seats left at the school. And in this scenario, I promise you this looks better on the presentation, but I'm worried that that's going to crash it again. So because the student's first choice was Brooklyn Latin, they're going to get an offer because Brooklyn Latin has 100 seats. So now this moves down to 99 seats left at Brooklyn Latin. For the next student, which is the second highest scorer, we see the list of schools on the left side, and they have Brooklyn Tech first. Since there are seats left at Brooklyn Tech, that's where they receive an offer. And this is how offers are generated to the specialized high schools through the specialized high school admissions test. It is just the availability based on what everyone who scored higher than you placed in. So now we're going to jump down to student number 500, and we see that Brooklyn Latin and Brooklyn Tech in this scenario have no more seats, which is indicated on the right side. Because there are no more seats at the first two schools, they receive an offer to Bronx Science, which is their third choice. Now, the next thing is something that happens to students and it confuses families a lot. So in this scenario, the student who got 501st only put down two schools, only Brooklyn Tech and Brooklyn Latin. Now, they did not receive a specialized high school offer because there were no seats left at their two choices. Even though there are seats left at Bronx Science, the student did not indicate that they wanted Bronx Science, so they didn't get an offer there. So now they won't receive a specialized high school offer, and there's no way to go backwards and say, oh, well, I would have wanted Bronx Science if I knew, because choices are captured before you take the exam. This year, we were able to indicate student choices in My Schools. Previously, they indicated it on the answer sheet for the test. So the next few slides are just some slides that we have available to help families create a My Schools account. And I will send a copy of this presentation to Melanie, and she can share it with all of you. And it just walks through adding your child onto My Schools, which is necessary if you want to submit an application for them. The next part is just going to be a quick overview of how you apply to schools on the high school application. So when you're in My Schools, you can look up programs, whether or not you're logged in on the website. If you're not logged in, you just want to click Start Browsing. You can explore different high school programs, and they'll come up on a map as we see on the right side. And the three best ways to find out more information is through myschools.nyc, contacting the schools directly, and by going on the school's website. You want to think of My Schools as an appetizer of what's available at the schools. And then when you are able to narrow down a list to a few schools that you're interested in, that's when you want to start branching into those school websites to figure out more information like what school programs do they have that I specifically want to go to? Do they have any other internship programs, things like that? You can start your search on My Schools. So you can put in your address at the top. You can search by school name or any other interests. You know, if you're interested in culinary arts, you can look up a program based on that or something like that. So there is a lot available for you to look up if you know some keywords that you want to use as a starting point. We do find that unfortunately, many families will go onto My Schools that only have 5 or 6 schools that they're interested in and not really branch out what they're looking for. So in our presentation, we do try to highlight that there are a range of types of schools available in New York City. You should really think about what is going to be best for my child. So we do have many of those indicated here, and more information about these is available in the digital high school guide, which is available online. One of the types of schools that we like to highlight are our career and technical education programs. These are robust programs that allow students to work in with professionals and take internships while going through their high school graduation requirements. There are a range of different programs from beautician to auto mechanic to electrician to culinary arts. And this really allows students to try out different job fields at the same time as they go through high school. And it really does prepare them for college because they get used to things like time management, handling different responsibilities, and working while going to school. We do have filters that are available in my schools for a host of different things. The main three filters that you'll always see available are subway line, size of the school, and sports program. I do want to highlight that sports is based on whether they're recognized by the public school athletics league. And it does have girls sports, boys sports, and co-ed available there for students. And then we also have more filters that let you look up certain things in terms of types of schools, like you can look up career and technical education programs specifically, early college programs, and if you're a ninth grader applying, you can just look for 10th grade admissions. We've also added some other program filters like transfer schools, our ACES program, and D75 programs, if that's what's needed to meet the child's needs more. There is program information available in my schools, and that's really important. And you can also look it up on a mobile device because program information, which I'll show you in a little bit, shows you more about the program you're applying to. And this is really important because some schools have many programs, and you don't want to accidentally apply to the wrong program in a school when you're applying on your high school application. So here we can see Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and that's just one of those schools that does have multiple programs. And if I accidentally apply to the dual language Chinese program, that's going to be a very different high school experience than if I applied to the environmental studies program. And that's why it's so important that counselors are making sure that they have the right code when they're assisting families. So when you're evaluating a program, what's really important is that you look at the program description to see if it's a good fit. You look at eligibility to see if you meet those requirements. Although I do want to say most high school programs don't actually have eligibility requirements. This next slide is one of the most important ones because this is really where a family needs to hone in to figure out whether or not they have a good chance of getting into a program. So I mentioned in the beginning of this process that there are seat groups of GE and SWD. You can actually see here on screen that when you're on a program, you can see how many seats are available depending on what seat group you're in. So if I have a child that's a general education student, there are 15 applications per seat in the previous year, and there are only 73 seats available. Right? And I can see how many seats are available and keep in mind how many people normally apply to that to see how in demand this program is. Next are priority groups. Now, priority group says who gets considered for offers first and in what order that happens. So if my student is applying, I'm more likely to get into a program if my child falls into the first priority group. And then the next thing that'll affect whether or not my child gets in is the admissions method. And many of these admissions methods changed this year. But for educational option, this is a program that puts students into buckets of low, medium, and high, and then randomly gives out offers in those groups. We did do away with portions of districts like Mid-Brooklyn Area B and things like that for admissions, but we did not get rid of zones and zone programs. So I'm just going to go a little bit more into priority group, and the way that you can understand this is that imagine that the numbers in front of each student is how they score academically. The academic is only going to be one part of it because those priority groups are important as well. So in this scenario, there's a student in priority group number 3 who's indicated as number 3 because they're the third highest academically scoring student. But because they're in that third priority group, they would not receive an offer until all the students in the top priority group and all the students in the middle get offers first. This is something that families sometimes do not understand and that are confused about when they go through the admissions process, because they'll say, my child has very high state test scores, has very high grades, but not have noticed that they're not in the highest priority group. So other students received offers first. The one thing I do want to say about this image is that this was taken from a previous year to use as an example, but priority to a specific district has been removed. So there would be no priority to District 2 students or residents. That was done away with this year. When you're on a school's program page, you can look at other things like whether or not they have 10th grade seats available and their interest area, which is important for families to look into. So we're going to go over admissions method and then a few other resources, and then we're going to be finished for the presentation tonight. But admissions methods are really important because they are how programs make offers to students, and the selection criteria is going to help students understand, what do I need to do to be considered for admissions? And we do incorporate all of this online into My Schools when the application process opens so that families can understand. So this is the full list of admissions methods, and we've already gone over audition. We've already gone over a specialized high school admissions test. Zone programs are programs where if you live within a certain area, you'll receive admission. And we're going to more specifically go over screen and educational option programs because many families have difficulties understanding that. The Screen for Language and Screen for Language and Academics programs we went over earlier when we talked about our English language learner students. And an open program just means that if there are more applicants than seats, we do a random lottery. So selection criteria is the information that is going to be used to evaluate applicants. And because of the pandemic, this changed. Schools had the option of using the final core course grades from 2018-19. They were able to use core course grades or marking period grades from fall of 2019 through February 2020. And they were also able to use state test scores from 2018 and 19. There was no attendance or punctuality used for this current admissions process. So again, that eligibility description is going to be important first as you're applying into admissions. And then priority group is going to be important to deciding offers. Within those priority groups, many schools have what's called a diversity and admissions priority. And what that means is that students who are from low-income families, in temporary housing, or learning English will be considered for a certain set of seats first. This is decided upon by the schools, any programs that they want to have these diversity and admissions initiatives, and you can find them by filtering in My Schools or by going onto this website. And I think that this is something that parents should understand if they did apply into these programs. For the DIA initiative, we did reach out to schools and families because the way that you'll be indicated is based on the lunch form information. So if families also did not give in that lunch form, they were able to go online to myschools.apps.com and put in their federal income information if they are trying to fit into the low income families. And then for students in temporary housing and English language learners, that information is already captured on the school level. So again, if you want to find diversity and admissions programs, you can filter in My School specifically to find it. And then every diversity and admissions page will specifically talk about what their priority is. So in this example, 38% of seats are given a priority for applicants who are eligible for free or reduced price lunch, which again is based on those federal income guidelines on the lunch form. Now we're going to switch gears to screened admissions. Now this is after the priority groups and those things. What does the student need to do and how are they going to be evaluated at the school level? So for screen programs, they are allowed to pull from the state test scores and grades in the ranges that I indicated before, but some schools also added other selection criteria. And some screen schools like Beacon aren't taking into account grades or test scores at all and put in separate additional requirements. The educational option program, as I indicated before, separates students into three categories: low, middle, and high. Now, the educational option category is not something that any other schools use for admissions except for educational option. And for these, once you're in your low, middle, or high category, seats are randomly given out within that category. And 1/3 of seats goes to each category. So this is an admissions method that creates academic diversity because students of different academic ranges will end up at the same school. The last thing that we really try to encourage parents to do is submit a balanced application, and that includes using all of your opportunities for 12 choices. You want to think about whether or not a program is in high demand based on how many applicants there are per seat. You want to try to mix up different admissions methods to apply to many types of schools, and you really want to be honing in on schools that you are the first priority group for their programs. The next thing for a balanced high school application is making sure that the preference order, which is how you list those programs 1 to 12, is in your true order of preference. You want to think about it as my first choice is where I really want to go if I got into everything on my application. Then if I didn't get that first choice, I want my second, and so on and so forth. If you don't receive an offer from a program on your application, which might happen if you don't list many options, or if there are more applicants and seats available at all of your programs, then the Office of Student Enrollment will match students with another program that has availability. So no 8th grader will be left without a high school application. Sorry, without a high school offer. They will be placed in a school if they took part in the high school admissions process. You can apply to more than one program at the same school. So earlier I showed you Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and you could apply to both the dual language Chinese program and the environmental studies program if you'd like. That is going to be 2 of those 12 choices. So we do like to finish off where we started. I showed you those 3 branches of high school admissions. So this is where we are chronologically right now. Specialized high school admissions test offers are about to come out by the end of this month. And then later on in the spring, you'll receive your offers to LaGuardia and off of the high school application, and that's going to be available. For students who do have more than one offer, they are allowed to decide between those offers. The Office of Student Enrollment does not force a choice. And then the waitlist process will open, in which students will be able to add themselves to waitlist, and if they receive an offer, decide if they want that waitlist offer over what offer they already have. Again, we do have our high school admissions series online, and we have a lot of resources and contacts for families, which I'm going to email out the presentation so you'll be able to see it there. And then lastly, the Specialized High School Diversity Outreach team likes to end with our quote, which is I see, I can be. There are many different people on this slide who went through the high school admissions process at some point or another. And all of them, regardless of what school they went to, went on to lead amazing lives. And we believe that families and students are going to do the same thing. I do thank you for allowing me to run through the presentation. I know that it was kind of wordy, but I am glad that you're going to be able to have this recording available for your families and constituents. And I do want to open it up for questions now.
That's an impressive list of people. I'm looking at that at those pictures. I didn't know Jay-Z went to specialized high school.
Yep.
There's a couple of people I knew.
That are on here didn't go to a specialized high school. So Jay-Z actually went to George Washington CTE High School. And the reason why we do have specialized and non-specialized high school alumni is because a specialized high school, a family may decide that that's not the best choice for them, right? There are many different types of schools throughout the city.
Sure.
And we really want people to understand that they can have a holistic experience no matter what high school they go to.
Awesome. I have a question.
Yeah.
So just for clarity, and thank you so much, Christian, we appreciate you so much for being here. So this particular opportunity is for incoming 9th and 10th graders. So students are applying in the 8th and 9th grade.
Correct. So 8th graders are going to apply to start 9th grade that next fall. And first-time 9th graders will apply to see if they want to go to a different school for 10th grade.
Is it likely, thank you, is it likely that those applying in the 9th grade, there would be less seats, or does that matter, or?
There are usually less seats for 10th grade, but I can't give you like, it's all yes or all no. Schools do, you can communicate with schools about how many seats are available for those 10th grade seats. And some of them even have it listed online, but there are usually less seats for 10th grade admissions. And the same for a specialized high school admissions test. which ninth graders take for 10th grade programs at the specialized high schools, there are usually less seats available.
Okay, these questions are for the benefit of all, because I know there was a lot of information. If somebody else has a question, please do ask.
Thank you, Christian. Yep. Yeah, that was great. That was very informative. I learned a lot. I have a 10-year-old, so I'm a couple of years out. So, but this is very interesting. And so you does that mean that kids don't stream into grade 11 and 12?
So they'll already be at a high school in 10th grade, and they'll continue in that school for 11th and 12th. But students have the option of moving where they go to school through this application process as an 8th grader going to 9th or 9th going to 10th.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Beverly.
Great.
Beverly has her hand up.
Go ahead, Beverly.
I have two questions.
Mhm.
Christian,
Yes.
how do parents, given that it seems as if this process is trying to cover kids who are in transitional housing, kids who are financially challenged, since it's covering all that, how do parents miss this program when there's so many kids? I had a kid walk up to me and say, I didn't know there was a specialized school. How does that, can you explain how that happens?
So this is something that I think my team specifically was started years before I started working in the DOE to help start fixing these issues. We see a range of different things happen across the city. Sometimes families do hear about specialized high schools, but there's always misinformation floating around. So I personally have heard on presentations that families think they have to pay to take this test, so then they are turned off from the program. I have sometimes, unfortunately, heard that students believe that they have to have an 85 or above average to apply to the specialized high school, so then they don't do it. And sometimes school staff, unfortunately, have misinformation. So what my team is trying to do is help mitigate that. And we have switched to putting on more virtual resources that are available online. We try to get families onto My Schools, because if a family goes onto My Schools, it'll say very specifically, start the specialized high school process. And they can click a little info button and see, what are the specialized high schools? What is this? They can see, start my high school application and find out more information as to what that is. But I know that education and schooling is only one part of what many of the families that we're speaking about in temporary housing, low-income families are dealing with. So we're trying to figure out how we can meet them where they are so that it doesn't feel like they have to do extra to get the information. Does that help a little bit?
I have one more. Yes, it does. It does. And thank you. One more question. So this is a student-run program or a BOE-run program?
This is a
Sorry,
Department of Education
Christian.
program.
Good. Mr. Barnes, could you release the screen so that I can
Sorry.
see everybody? Yep, there you go. Thanks. There you go. Thank you.
Okay,
Cheers.
no problem. This is a Department of Education run team. We also work in conjunction with the high school admissions team. We do presentations that we host. Before the pandemic, we hosted them at libraries, so families didn't have to travel far to get them. Since the pandemic started, we did virtual presentations. We've worked in conjunction with community education councils. Sometimes we visited community board meetings. So we are trying to physically get out there to more families as much as possible. And I think with the pandemic, we've realized other ways that we can continue to use that virtual space to reach a lot of families as well.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So the parents who have kids that already took the test and they're about to get the result this month, yay. So we'll choose, well, depending upon how our child did, we'll get the score of how they did. And will it be like against other kids?
So it's going to show you your child's score and then whether or not they received an offer. And like right now, if you go onto My Schools and you have a child who tested, you're allowed to indicate whether you want it emailed to you or whether you want it physically mailed to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
And what do you recommend in terms of any kind of recommendations for a community board that wants to? Obviously, the timing is a little bit off perhaps now, but one of the things that this group in particular is talking about how we can help our community be more informed about this process. So what recommendations might you have, and what timeline should we think of if we want to do, organize something else to really get the word out to parents?
So I definitely think the time to, I guess, reinvigorate family attention is in September after school starts, because high school admissions becomes a lot easier if as soon as you come back to school, you make sure things like your final grades from the previous year are correct and in the system, that you're getting connected on My Schools, things like that. And our team would be glad to come back and also do a presentation so they understand the process that's about to happen. The second one is right before the high school deadline finishes. Sometimes families put it off, sometimes they forget about that deadline, and it's always more strenuous for families if they're trying to work after a deadline to get something in. And then the third thing, which will happen later on in the spring, after offers are released, we can come and explain that waitlist process, because last summer was the first time we did it, and a lot of families don't understand how waitlists work. So I guess those are the 3 times that are like best, and like our team can also come back. We do make ourselves available to work with you as well.
Can you put those timelines in the chat, Christian?
Yes.
Thank you.
It would be great if we were able to put in that request now, but I know that, every year is so different.
Mhm.
With new, we have like each year we might have a different chair, there might be a new committee.
Yep.
But I definitely was able to jot those periods down. So.
Is this
Yeah.
something that, Christian, is this something that we as individual community members can support with? Do we have to be part of the community board in order to do that?
No, we've worked with PTAs, we've worked with other groups that speak to families to put on presentations. We want to make sure that this is getting to families as much as possible. We also, do phone calls during the registration period for specialized high school testing. We do phone calls and days of action to students in temporary housing, and things like that to help them get their applications in.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And I do just want to highlight that, COVID has shown us that sometimes these timelines shift. Like this year, it wasn't announced until December how admissions was going to work. And then it opened very quickly for families, and then had only about 3 months before it closed again. So I am putting the timelines in the chat, but those may shift based on, I'm hoping that we never have anything as devastating as the current pandemic happen in the city. But if something like that does happen again, those timelines may shift.
All right. Any final questions for Mr. Barnes?
This one may be a little bit more very, very interesting, and I'm going to be honest and put it out there because this is a community board meeting. So I found it interesting that the specialized high school admissions test definitely was given, but colleges were no longer accepting the did you think this question might come up? Colleges were not requiring SATs, and graduate schools weren't
We're not
accepting
requiring the
GE.
GREs. Yes, I know, because
GREs.
I applied to grad school. So for the specialized high schools, they're actually under state law. So the Department of Education in New York City cannot currently change how you get into those schools. And I say 1 to 2 years ago, COVID is again messing up my sense of time. The mayor did put forth a plan to change how the specialized high schools admissions could be changed. But until the Calandra Act is repealed, it's actually under state law how admissions to the specialized high schools works. There's not much flexibility or movement. And for the testing specialized high schools, that test is the sole criteria, and that cannot change. But I do definitely recognize the conversation that you have been having. We do get that question of the equitability, right, of the test for students.
Thanks, I appreciate you.
All right. Well, Mr. Vaughn, thank you. That was very helpful. I suspect we will be calling on you again because I think this is really information that we want to get out far and wide, and so often this just needs to be done repeatedly, right? For the information to get where it needs to be. And I appreciate the clarification of the timeline. So we will hopefully see you in the fall.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're certainly welcome to hang around, but also understand if you move on with life. And then again, thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
You're muted, really.
Thank you, Melanie, for organizing that. I thought that was great. And certainly a good point, right? That this is something that just too many people are just not aware of. I'm sorry, 1 second, just send instruction. All right, let's move on to the rest of the agenda. It's 8:02. I'm going to be respectful of people's time, so we'll focus on things we can, in fact, talk about today. So Melanie, why don't we switch over to you to talk about anything Jackie Robinson related.
Where is it?
Yes, so in our last meeting, we spoke about Jackie Robinson Day. Y'all know that I am very passionate, and I know that some of you are as well, regarding the history of our community. And, with so much, I would say sadness and disappointment and inequity that has been clearly shown, during this pandemic, it's great to be able to have something to celebrate. So at the end of our meeting, I did put forth a proposal in which the hope of response, but unfortunately there weren't as many responses, but at the end of the day, we want to be able to celebrate, right? So my business, gives historic tours, and Real is, that is called Threshold World, and Real is with Trailblazers. And so just making that clear, if you saw the email, on this Thursday, April 15th is Jackie Robinson Day nationally in US. And so there will be a community, there will be a trolley that will be in a community. And it will leave Jackie Robinson School, but one must sign up on the Eventbrite. It's very limited. And, we're also social distancing on this trolley as well. There's a front and back. It's free. We're actually not charging community members, so it's actually a gift. And there will be, donations taken for, the host and the driver. So that's on Thursday. That's what I could control. But of course, I'm not able to control, anything that I'm not able to, right? So, part of the proposal was, also being able to have, to do the spring fair. There was a week, the proposal was for a week of events, based on events that were already happening in the community. So even this event just now was on the list, So at any rate, we were awaiting Jackie Robinson School to make us aware of whether or not they had the permit for Saturday, because Demetria had responded to the proposal, and she was very interested to move forward to have the book giveaway. But the school actually just got back to us today to make us aware that they did get the permit, and we do have the Jackie Robinson School. So, but unfortunately, I don't believe Demetria is on the meeting right now.
Yeah. So so Melanie, let me say this. I think that first of all, everything is a little bit tougher in COVID times, right? I think it's difficult to get things off the ground on any given day, but nowadays it's especially hard. I very much agree that having a dedicated Jackie Robinson celebration is a great thing to do, that we should focus on as a community board. And you know what? Let's just celebrate this as a small start, as something that we can actually make a standard item for for this committee to focus on. And so certainly, I think it's a Thursday. I think it's a great thing. And so we'll continue to send it out. I send it out to our networks as well, and then we'll take it from there. The fair, in my opinion, is too short notice at this point, and I think we'll also do it with Dimitri here, but I think that might be just a little bit too tough, and I'm not sure if that makes sense for us to do.
I don't have any comment because I'm not in charge of the books. And,
Right.
At this point, I really feel for the most part, it has been hard to be able to communicate via email. And for most events, we just need people to show up. So, like I said, I did what I can control, and I'm excited that Community Board 9 is on it, because at the end of the day, it was always about it being a community event. So sign up, everybody. Make sure, it was sent via email for the Eventbrite. So, if you want to come, make sure you have on your mask and sign up via Eventbrite. Thanks, Rio.
Thank you, Melanie. And look, again, I certainly relate to it's tough to do everything over email and via Zoom, and it's a little bit harder to move things forward sometimes. But we just give it our best shot. And I appreciate you. Let's see. Mr. Roberts, any updates on the social media front? Because I'm thinking about the specialized high school information, right? That's really great that the community board needs to push out these kinds of information. So we need to build our channels. Anything to share with us? Is Mr. Roberts with us? Yes, he is. There you go. The floor is yours.
Hey, good afternoon, all. And yes, Real, I can push that. So far, what you gave me were the Instagram. And you said that you would follow up with the office to see if they had a Facebook and a Twitter account. So via the Instagram, I can definitely push. As long as I got those information, I can put it onto the Instagram for you, and work along with it, keep doing tweeting and that kind of stuff. But I'm very good at more better at Facebook. So you said that you would look into the Facebook, which I think if you have all three, automatically, if you have Facebook, wherever you post on Facebook, automatically goes to the Instagram. I think that would be pretty cool. But I can definitely, as long as they send me the high school stuff and I have some photos that they gave me, I can push that on the Instagram for you.
Yeah, and either Khalid or Mia, I'm not sure who responded, said it would be it's a good idea to consider specific pages for the individual committees. I don't think that's the case right now, so perhaps that is something that the education committee could take the lead on, because I agree, Mr. Roberts, being able to post to all at once, right, would make sense. And so, Khalid, I'm not sure if you're still on, whether that was you or Mia who chimed in on that. It's an email chain from about a week ago or so. Let's see if Khalid is still on. So I know he was he was kind of moving around at the moment as well. So, Mr. Roberts, if you wouldn't mind just connecting back with either Mia or Khalid, because there is a Facebook page, right? And then I'm actually, I'm showing my age here. I'm not as familiar with Facebook anymore. I left a while ago, but the suggestion was made by the office that setting up separate pages for each one of the committees would be a good idea, and they were interested in looking into that. And I know that I think kind of general communication and outreach was a priority for a new district manager as well. So would you mind checking with Mia on on how we can get a page set up for the community, for the education committee?
Sure, I can.
Thank you. And then I think, at minimum, right, how about each one of us on this call, right? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, each commit to getting another 5 people on the CB9 Education Committee Instagram, assuming you're on Instagram. If you're not on Instagram, you are exempted. If you're on Instagram, who's willing to give that a shot? Because then, we would instantly triple our membership or our followers.
Repeat the
That
challenge.
is pretty doable,
Which you
I
can
think.
do. Okay, Instagram challenge, y'all.
Can you repeat
What?
it? What's the challenge?
The Instagram challenge is, if you're on Instagram, one, obviously, you should be following CB9 Education, right? If you do not, do that right away, and I have it on my phone. That's fine, maybe. No, you cannot. And 2, find 5 more followers from your network. 5 more followers. Right? That is the Instagram CB9 Education Challenge. All right, and so we'll have bragging rights for the people who did that, but also bragging rights for the people who did it first. So if you are first in the first in, put it on email and claim the title.
Real, can you say that again for the Instagram challenge?
So one, you have to follow CB9 Education, right? CB9 Education Instagram. If you're not following, just follow it now, and I'll make sure you're accepted. And find 5 more followers. That's the Instagram challenge. 5 more followers to the CB9 Education Instagram handle.
That's the minimum?
That's the minimum. Look, if you want to go hard, come with 10. We'll bow down.
Just listen. I just
Okay.
asked.
5. Your next meeting will up the ante to a more actually challenging number. All right, that's great. Good. Let's see. I think there's a couple of other kind of projects that I don't think we necessarily have a whole lot of reporting on. I know Beverly, Lorianne, and I attempted to connect on a spelling bee and failed, so we have to try again.
We have rescheduled it for Tuesday. I joined and no one.
Are you?
So then I was.
Oh, really?
I missed the email, but there was a meeting when Beverly were on, and then you said let's reschedule it.
Yeah.
The same link that I sent out for the initial, and no one came, and I thought I missed the meeting. I was like, okay.
I'm not sure what happened, Lorianne. I do know that if things are not on my calendar, they don't exist, and so I may have neglected to put it on my calendar and then forgot all about it. I apologize. Can we try again, please?
Oh, definitely. Just let me know if you guys are available.
Can we have a conversation first?
Sure.
Because it seems like once we leave the education meeting, it's everybody goes their own ways, and that includes myself. And I'm like Riel, now that we're in this virtual world, if something's not on my calendar, I'm missing it. So
I understand.
if we can come up with a date now, that would be great. And then we'll know to meet each other in the other dark room at whatever time it is. Because it seems like once we leave the education meeting, everybody goes their own way, and it's hard to track down everybody because everybody's time and they read their emails. Sometimes I read my emails at 4 o'clock in the morning. So if we can kind of start something right now, it will be really helpful.
Right. I'm going to throw out a time.
You can just check our calendars right now, look and see what's available right now.
This week or next week? This week, the only option I really have at the moment, I am much more flexible during the day. I control that calendar much more. Evenings are tough. Not impossible, but I'm much more flexible during the day. Evenings, the windows are a lot shorter.
You mean during in the AM, or is that what you mean?
Yeah, morning or afternoon. Evening is possible, but a little bit more limited. Morning or day often is a lot more flexible for me.
That's how I am in the evenings. Only time is every other Thursday. My whole day is occupied. Every Friday from like 11 to 3 is occupied. So,
Lorianne, what is your availability during the day?
I'm sorry?
It's fine. Anything after 1 would be good.
Okay. How about Thursday, 3 o'clock?
Thursday, this coming Thursday at 3?
It's coming Thursday.
Works for me.
All right, I'm putting it on right now.
Thank you.
And it is coming to your email right now. There we go. Done.
Okay. Thank
Great.
you.
Yeah, well done. Thank you, Beverly. That's
Thank you.
that is good. All right. So to be continued, and I have a bunch of ideas on how to do a virtual spelling bee. I think could be very interesting. I think, let me just go to my agenda for 1 second. I think that is all we had for tonight. Are there any other topics that we should be discussing today?
So I was fading in and out when Melanie was talking about the Jackie Robinson event, and I'm gonna have to check back in on what decision was made in regards to that, but from the email I got, they're having it in the schoolyard.
No, nothing is happening now except for Thursday. The trolley that's going to be in the community, and folks would need to sign up on Eventbrite.
Yeah.
Oh, but in the email, I understood it to say it was confirmed for Jackie Robinson Middle School on Saturday.
Well, they got back to us today to make us aware that the permit was approved.
Oh, okay. So it's great.
Yeah.
Is that not great?
Well, I think it's, I mean, Demetrius not here. I don't think we have a way to really plan for it properly. Here's what I'm thinking. I think one of the kind of, issues always with the committees is that it's a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of really great ideas with limited time, right? And people are busy with their lives, and so, and I often fall into that trap myself as well. I would say, it's April 13th today, right? By the time the summer comes around, everything kind of comes to a screeching halt. There are two things we should put our energy on. Let's put together a great pre-summer resource fair that is books for summer reading, any other kind of resources for the summer, including programs and camps. The city is preparing for a brand new Summer Rise. Did anybody hear this today? The mayor talked about it today. The city is working with DYCD to provide essentially a summer school, summer camp combo that is going to be rolled out. I can't remember the exact number of kids, but it's going to be a large number of kids. And so I think that is a good opportunity, and we have time to organize that. And let's do something fun with try to pull together a spelling bee. Let's focus on getting one resource fairs together for June, just as the schools end, and then in June perhaps we can spend some time kind of getting ourselves organized for September, because after June everybody's going to be gone, right? And then it'll be a wrap for a couple months.
May I suggest that when we do the reading thing with the kids, and we challenge the grown-ups too, because kids learn to read by example. I go back to my friends and myself. All of us enjoy reading, but then when we ask about our parents, there's at least one parent that enjoys reading as well. So when we're talking about challenging the kids to read, when we're doing that resource fair, can we also include the parents?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And Demetria had a lot of adult books, so parents, I think that is Yeah, I think that's great. I would agree. Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you.
Two things. The first thing, so are we gonna postpone the spelling bee?
Well, we never set a date, right? So I think we should get this done. And because we'll meet on Thursday, let's map it out. And I bet we can pull it off.
And I believe I completed the get 5 followers challenge. Thank you.
Oh, come on. Who's this? Is this Lorianne? No. All right. Okay. So 5 was clearly not enough. That's also, by the way, you're cheating. You're supposed to be paying attention, not getting followers.
I could multitask.
All right. That's fantastic. Okay, great.
I look forward to speaking to you and Beverly about this on Friday.
Yeah, let's figure it out. And the testing schedule for the schools, for the elementary schools, has come out, right? So I think this is a nice one to line up with with once the testing is done, and then have a couple of days of schools being able to organize their own internal spelling bee, and then have it lead to a district-wide one, something along those lines.
Okay, I was wondering when their testing was coming. All right, cool.
Yeah, the testing, I don't have them in my head, but the testing, it is scheduled.
I think you're muted.
I think it's his connection.
Maybe it's his internet. Yeah.
Yeah, you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Sorry, I dropped for a moment. Any other comments or questions?
Not from me. Thank you.
I have a recommendation. If COVID is, this is April, so we have 2 more months as folks on this board. I certainly wish you all the best with the spelling bee. Sounds like it's going to be great that you all get together to make it happen. So I put that positive energy to you all in advance. And so we have May, we have June, and that's pretty much it. I feel like, I honestly almost feel like this is the last meeting because so much has happened since we last met. But my suggestion moving forward, I think there needs to be an additional method of communication. For example, since email with our committee clearly is not 100% for us right now, like maybe Google Voice numbers or some type of group chat or something else. We may want to look into something else, if not for this year, certainly for next year as an additional method of communication.
Yep. Yeah, listen, I agree with that. May and June, right? I think we can put some good energy in for these last 2 months. I think we've kind of, are attempting to reboot an education committee in the middle of this mess, right? So we should, celebrate the successes. But communication is definitely tough, right? And you should see my email inbox sometimes, and I miss things all the time because it is such a volume that comes through. So I think it's true that breaking through in communication can be a real challenge these days. And I think the sad reality is this is not over, right? I mean, literally just before the meeting started, I saw a news flash coming in from one of the newspapers that the virus numbers are shooting up again in the city. And so it's going to be a while before we are kind of going back to whatever normal is going to look like. And so in the meantime, I'd agree that finding, improving our ways to communicate is a good goal.
But I find one of the things that I understand Melanie talking about us establishing a different way to communicate. And Riel is correct. I seem to be getting more emails than I ever have before. I'm finding that regardless of all of that, I do see things a lot quicker. I do respond to text because I can do it while I'm walking to wherever, whatever, and it just requires a few words as opposed to an email. It seems like an email takes more. So
Yeah.
maybe that's something that we can, because we have each other's numbers anyway. So maybe that's
Yeah.
something we can talk about or engage with, because I do find that emails take a little more effort for me to respond to
Right.
and locate, as opposed to me just saying, yes, I'll be there. No, I don't agree. Yes, I do agree.
So hot.
Let's do that in a text. So maybe that's food for thought as we move forward also.
Yeah, and I'll add to this, and we should get some feedback from the office on this, because I did ask the office about this, and part of the issue is that if you, let's say we create a WhatsApp chat, right? And so everybody's on there, and now people actually start to engage on an issue, then it could be considered a meeting, right? And so, and then you end up in violation of the what is the open meeting laws. And so that's part of the issue, right? So there's a difference between communicating a date or a progress report and having a kind of an exchange, because that then becomes a meeting and people have to be able to be part of it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And so, but you know what? I think that's something that we can get some more feedback on, Mr. Roberts.
No. I remember that being a conversation a couple previous meetings.
I beg to differ.
Okay.
If you have I beg to differ that if you have an organization and you have chat that you have a chat group going on, it's considered a meeting. I don't think I'm a part of the University Student Senate, and that is like a whole board by its own self. And we have like several different chats in there, and we communicate stuff, and then we come to meetings as normal. So I don't really think I need to check it in. I don't think that is really a violation, because so you can check it and see, but I don't think.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's worthwhile having the conversation again. That's the feedback that I got at some point, but I'll add to that it didn't push very hard back on it, and so I think it is definitely worthwhile having more, getting better understanding on, and especially if that helps us communicate with each other and drive things forward easier. Great. So I'll ask the office about this, and let's pick this up at the next meeting. How's that?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
8:28. I'm sparing you 2 minutes. I appreciate all of you very much. Thank you for taking the time. It's a crazy time to set aside even free time for yet another meeting, but it is always a pleasure to share some time with you. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Oh, 1 second. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Is it
Melanie?
is she still on?
Mm-hmm, she's still on.
I just checked the email. I don't see the right link. Should I email that number, or?
Melanie, email us to RCP again.
Okay, I can send it again.
No, I see the message, but I don't see the Eventbrite link in the message.
You have to click on the where it
Flyer?
says.
Okay, that's fine. If it's in there,
You see it?
but I didn't see it in the flyer. Okay, thank you guys so much. Sorry for keeping you guys.
It's okay. Thank you. Be well, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.